Deleted Session, November 26, 1972. Now, good evening, and good thinking in acting for the interpretation. Well noted of the 367th. They said the session contained information about vital aspects of Rupert's personality, but given in your terms at a particular period of time. More intimate material concerning your own relationship could not be given them, of the kind given later. He would not allow it. The point about success being a critical factor, well noted in the 367th. They said also means that it was a potentially creative factor. It could bring various potentials to bear that could be used positively, or in your terms, negatively. What was not said is this. He felt that no one with whom he had been intimately involved believed in him as a person, or trusted his intrinsic value, except for yourself. Your meeting and laugh helped reinforce all of his own creative aspects and rearoused his faith in himself. While he had that strong faith in himself, the other tendencies, including the false prophet ideas, lost all but the most minute significance. His mother, Father Ryan, Walter, some college friends, Mozart, Hayes, all of those persons in one way or another implied strongly at times that he was either a saint or a devil, a creator or a destroyer. He held his faith in himself, despite those acts, and because of the vitality of his youth. You alone seemed to accept him as the person that he was. Love is a great reconciler, and the greatest healer, and so is trust. Some of these can be given later if you want specific connections. As your own complaints grew, however, about your job, this place, publishers, and his behavior, he began to feel that he did not have your trust, and therefore the old doubts, slowly at first, began to emerge. He was afraid to make a decision for fear that it would be the wrong one, and sometimes literally afraid to move for fear of making the wrong move, and earning your displeasure of disapproval. It is true that for some time he then projected portions of his own overly conscientious portions upon you, and then reacted. But it is also true that you had schooled yourself to display displeasure through a heavy silence, and were afraid of displaying your happier, sunnier emotions. When he was spontaneous, it seemed you did disapprove. At the time that session was given, Ram noted 367th. They said those elements were paramount. It was because of his great love for you and his knowledge of your great love for him that your disapproval, by contrast, was so chilling. If you, who loved him so deeply, distrusted him, then you see he must seriously consider that he must indeed watch himself carefully. Unfortunately, your own illness brought up in you some buried characteristics that then, for some time, became the habit rather than, as earlier, the exception. You do have strong perfectionist leanings. They are, whether you know it or not, also projected by you upon Ruber, so that you do see his physical condition as an outrage, not only literally but symbolically. This is something quite beside your normal urge to see your wife in good health. Robert has always known this. To some extent, he had equated his recovery as almost impossible at times. Things in those terms, now, and when they operate, it puts him in a position of trying to be perfect. Do you follow me? Rob said, yes. They said, there is material buried in the files that says clearly that our sessions began for many reasons. Your joint desire to know, for example, and to probe together into the nature of reality. They also began because Robert most desperately wanted you to be well, and turned into a greater source than usually available to that end. Intuitively, the personality knew its abilities also. So there was the creative urge to develop and grow. The two blended. His desire to forge ahead philosophical beyond any school or church also was involved, and his artistic endeavors, which bloom in my books. Now, as well as in his own work, the entire psychic situation then brought into your lives fantastic energy, and attempted to correlate diverse creative, personal and psychic goals. All for this was focused into a particular time, as you think of it. It demanded growth, creativity. It was born of such diverse elements. In this lifetime, as your sign, make a galaxy, Jane, and also born because of those stresses that had deeply by then already made themselves known. Now take a break, and if you are willing, we will continue briefly. Now, Robert felt that his symptoms were, in your eyes, the concrete indications of his imperfections. They became a symbol to him. You would not accept him as he was, unless he was perfect. You would not accept him with the symptoms as an imperfect being, and love him anyway. He felt that unless he became physically perfect again, you would not love him again in that way he wanted. He had to be perfect for you in order to be physically perfect, and he felt it impossible to be perfect enough so that this could be physically materialized. He felt you were rigid in your standards. Now, much of this has to do with his own characteristics as given and ways of reacting. He was afraid you would become like your father in his treatment of your mother. He felt unable to freely express his fears to you, feeling they would only accept you. You did not express your fears often to him, so he began to hide his warm, vulnerable self from the person he loved most. The sessions having to do with your sexual life are important, vitally so. Now, I know what questions you have, so give me a moment. Both events are important, the death of his father and the mailing of the book. He felt that you were strongly dissatisfied with the circumstances surrounding the book. You told him it was marred because of his missed sessions, the fact that it was accepted instead of another book. Rob noted dreams. They said, and the nibbling characteristics that came out strongly as you worked with the details toward the book's end. Another marred performance, with you he felt as the judge. His father's death reminded him that he was studying quite alone except then for his mother, and also brought up the question of age. He could not satisfy either parent or you, or apparently himself, and there seemed no place to turn. With you home, it seemed you only noticed his imperfections more. He felt this is an answer to another question, that there was a veiled threat involved in my remark that I would not be dispensed with. There was none. He felt angry that often it seemed you trusted me but not him. He was never in danger of any severe emotional or mental difficulties. He would always cope, and in the main creatively, if unconventionally or bizarrely. He did not feel safe, however, to go ahead fully if he did not feel he had a strong, loving creature type trust with you. Does that answer your main questions? Rob said, yes. Seth said he did feel accused in your eyes, and he was determined that your relationship lived up to its potentials as much as was possible. You may take a break or end the session as you prefer. Rob said, can I ask a question? Seth said, you may indeed. Rob said, it's nothing great. What do you think about the news he got about sales this week because of the Time magazine article? Seth said, you already know what I told you, and it still applies. Rob asked, how about the gallery magazine deal? Seth asked, what about it? Rob asked, should he consider it? Seth said, it is already being considered. It can work. You do not as yet understand how your own attitudes affect such matters. It is dependent upon your own attitudes, how much publicity you want, and how you are jointly going to face the world. It can work, or it can be disastrous. Then, you make your reality. There is no reason it cannot work, and will, with the proper attitudes. On your part, the relative greater importance of such a project to you over that of the writer. Rob noted, for gallery. Seth said, means that your attitudes will predominate. Do you follow me? Rob said, I think so. Seth said, now, you knew Rupert's stubbornness. You knew he would insist upon drawing you out in precisely those ways that you desired and feared. So both of you were quite aware of what was going on. You gave also creatively, and do not forget that. Age is involved, in that you knew Rupert would go so far and no further, and so did he. Rob said, with the symptoms, you mean? Seth said, indeed. He is too literal to let things remain hidden. He would have made changes, and insisted you face the symbolic situation in concrete terms, as in entirely separate apartments or different bedrooms, until the physical situation mirrored the symbolic ones. This would have frightened you enough so that you would have come to him freely, or in his eyes not cared enough to. Do you have other questions? Rob said, I guess not. Seth said, you may take a break or end the session. Rob said, we'll take the break. Seth said, it is because you both are such loners basically, creatively and in normal physical life, that Rupert realized that you must have a strong and vital, open and world system of communication with each other. It also means that you alone, in the main, must meet each other's emotional needs. They do not find fulfillment from a large family in daily contact, for example, or from a large group of friends. In his role as woman, Robert would not want to appear in public with you unless he was gallantly and proudly escorted. He expected this always. For a while now, the symptoms also represented a holding back, because he feared you were jealous of his success. To save you embarrassment, as mentioned in the past. In the main, however, he felt he did not live up to your expectations, that the two of you were not together emotionally. He felt ashamed of what he thought you thought of as trivial, unimportant matters. Homing concerns. He became ashamed of them. Fear of childbirth was also involved. He feels you both can be more lenient now, since the possibilities have dropped some. Because of his age, he is less likely to become pregnant than when he was, say, 30. He also felt sexually that what you wanted least was true spontaneity, for that could lead him to forget himself enough to forget proper birth control methods. You did not tread intercourse any more than he did. Rob said yes. They said a good deal for the leg contraction has to do with inhibited sexual impulse. There will be some resistance on his part. Rob noted, touching leg. They said, as you resume a normal sexual pattern, simply because of the pent-up frightened energy. You can get around this, however, using methods given earlier and reassurance. He will be afraid for a while that you will turn away from him again. It has never been what you said, so much as your unexpressed communications that bothered him. What is said you can face, work out, and encounter. Before, in the past, you would each go so far, as given before, then let the whole thing go underground once more. Rupert would not allow that to happen any more, for both of your sakes. He would not hurt himself either beyond a certain point. Hence, his just surfacing thought that week about separate apartments. Beyond all this, he also knew he had to consider the separate apartments while knowing they would not be necessary. Do you follow me? Ralph said, yes. I would just begun to wonder. They said he had to know he could do it, and that he would, while a portion of him knew quite well that it was not necessary. Take a brief break. If you have questions, form them. Now I will not keep you, and if you are tired from note-taking, say so. Ralph said, I'm okay. They said several issues operated in Florida and on the trip. Your location. You gave it more negative ones than Rupert, but each of you felt it was all you could afford, and poor at that. The contrast between your last stay there and that one, and in your relationship, was too obvious for comfort. You, Ralph noted to me, they said, felt that your physical situation in the years between was not that much better, and on top of it, you had quit your job. The two of you were in one room together, where Rupert felt his imperfections could not be hidden. You used the excuse of work, both of you, to isolate yourselves from other people while you did crossword puzzles and little work. You isolated yourselves and did not put to advantage much, though some of what I told you. You saw that when you did not rely on your work, you enjoyed few creature comforts Do you follow me? Rob said, Not exactly. Seth said, You were not painting. Robert was not writing. You were filled with your relationship as it exists apart from your work together. Now, do you follow me? Rob said, Yes. Seth said, The easy, spontaneous, daily, trivial give and take was not there. Both of you knew it. You took approximately the same amount of time to do your puzzles as you usually spent working, to fill in the gap. Does that answer your question? Rob said, Yes. Seth said, Now, though it may not seem so to you, the entire episode has been a creative endeavor, in which together you saw to it that various desired characteristics be brought out in each other. You particularly in the beginning served as a strong impetus to Robert, freeing him for serious work. You do not believe me now when I tell you that you have always exaggerated your situation and Robert's as far as its negative aspects are concerned. But you have, and this has been part of the difficulty. You will see. Now I bid you a fond good evening, and my heartiest, freest regards for a joyful, spontaneous, and loving daily existence, in which all things have their place. Rob said, Thank you very much, says good night. Seth said, Now, a brief remark for our friend. There was a previous relationship, in your terms, with your third child. Tell yourself you will have a dream that will tell you of the circumstances. Tell our dear friend Eleanor to be as lovingly concerned. No one will take advantage of you unless you believe that they will. Look at the New York world and the California world with the eyes of the seagull. Expect to find understanding and in course, real people, and you will. For Richard, the name Andrews or Andrews is significant. There is a new book for you, of course. I told you that earlier. And the creature enterprises will fly. There are two male relatives with whom you also had a relationship in another existence. Council likes to invent new hemispheres to explore, and new vehicles with their own amazing controls. Richard then learns to operate the controls, and revels in the expertise. There will be more at a later time, and I appreciate my debut in time. Richard sends you, Rob noted, Jen and me. Seth said, postcards, and this is my private postcard to him, though my real address is difficult to find. Rob noted, period. Seth said, I am keeping an eye out, however, for his affairs and illness, and I appreciate their endeavors on Robert's behalf. They are not needed, and yet on all of your behalves they are needed. Now, you cannot say that I always speak clearly, and that is the end of our postcard. Rob said, Okay, thank you. Good night, Seth.